All right, everybody, thanks for joining us for this live and then recorded session that's going to be talking about effective sales incentive program design based on ROI. And then we're going to be testing a really exciting new feature, and that is on brand storytelling. And we're very lucky to have Kevin Kolman. You can see that grill in the background. To talk about this whole new concept of brand storytelling, how to use brands more effectively, and then how to create brand experiences in our new virtual world. But first, I'd like to introduce our attendees. Those are going to be, I should say, our panelists. Allan Schweyer, he's exceptionally well known in our field. He's the curriculum director for the EEA, but I think more importantly, he's the chief academic advisor for the Incentive Research Foundation, where he's done really groundbreaking work. Lincoln Smith, he's with Chief Strategy Officer for HMI Performance and Incentives in the Boston area. Very committed to effective program design practices. We've got Todd Hanson. Todd is an expert in ROI back before even anyone was using, back when people were saying ROI instead of ROI in the early 2000s. And then later on, we're going to have Kevin Kolman talking with me about the brand. And this is going to go real fast. We're also testing a new 30-minute format. So the first thing, Allan, I'm going to throw this question at you. You have been at this as long as anybody in terms of measuring what people are doing. How common is ROI in sales incentive? How many companies are really seriously measuring ROI?
Yeah, sure, Bruce. I mean, I don't know the number. I would say a percentage is probably somewhere short of 10%. You know, just I based that on a fair amount of work we did at the IRF on program measurement. It wasn't just for sales, but across incentives in general, and found in our surveys that very few, again, fewer than 10% of our survey respondents really demonstrated true ROI analysis in their measurements.
Lincoln, you're at the front lines of this every day. You're calling on clients. Honestly, and we're not off the record, unfortunately, but how many clients are really saying, I want a fully integrated ROI-based program where I have qualitative and quantitative measures, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I wish I could give an exact percentage, but I can kind of say that I think that the market's becoming more and more educated and aware, and weighting more importance on making sure that there is very finite goals and objectives that are being measured to justify a program. Now, with that being said, Bruce, I think that we still have a long way to go. I would say that the majority of incentive designers that are being done kind of in-house in corporations, really don't have a lot of the tools or the expertise or the approach. So, we find that there's a lot of value with bringing in someone that has some expertise on how to help design a program. So, probably what Allan said, maybe 10 to 20%. We're probably making it a high priority, and there's still a lot of room for education on that.
Well, it's a very interesting thing, but a lot of people don't realize it. The Securities and Exchange Commission of the United States has just issued new regulations that require, it's law, that companies disclose their practices related to human capital investments for recruitment, retention, and development of employees, all employees, and the metrics that they can use from year to year to compare that. So, Todd, this whole concept now, it's now been declared by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that people are material, that it's got to be measured and reported. And by the way, these same rules apply to private equity companies. Private equity companies very often, because they're investors, they have to supply information. Todd, do you see a shift? You deal with a lot of CEOs running a business operating system that, this is waking people up that they've got an asset that they've not properly measured. Do you think this could drive more focus on ROI and that in the COVID crisis?
Yeah, so we are already, I think many people are going, this has been a horrible time in history, but there are silver linings to be found. And one of them specifically is this greater level of awareness. I mean, it was always there, but it just wasn't necessarily front of mind. And that is, without our people, we've got nothing, right? We've just got nothing. Whether we're an asset-based company or professional services or what have you, and employees have been put under incredible stresses. I could go through them. I mean, you're probably living them, right? With working remote, you know, Gallup's predicting in 2021, it's still going to be 42% of the workforce is going to be remote. It was like 17 or 18% pre-pandemic. And you know what that creates, you know, this blurring of business and personal life, and it's, you know, potential fear as it relates to the pandemic and things like that. So the smartest companies were right there, recognizing what the challenges were with their people. And it's not just employees, it can be vendors, you know, and obviously their clients too are in this whole pandemic world with us as well. And if they demonstrated some sensitivity, created a, you know, just an intuitive sense of what's going on, in some cases tried to quantify that, and then actually respond and react to that in a multitude of different ways. They're seeing that whether they were hit a little bit, none, or a lot, that they're coming out after the smoke is clearing, and they've got this this momentum already to move forward with exploring new opportunities or creating stabilization or whatever it might be.
Allan, in the pulse surveys that the IRF has been doing over the many years, and you've done so many interviews with so many people, it's pretty apparent that very few people are really trained in program. Where would you learn about how to design a proper incentive program? You know, again, you're not in a position, you're not a salesperson out in the field, but it's not really taught anywhere, is it?
I don't know if it's taught anywhere explicitly. I know there are programs now, more and more programs actually in universities, whether they're just certificates or part of degree programs, that are talking about incentives, incentive design, reward and recognition. So, you know, that is actually taking off a fair bit. Even I was at guest lecturing at Harvard University in the business school last year. They implemented a semester-long program in this. So it is happening. Now, on the measurement side of it, design, I think, is one thing. Measurement's a bit different. Jack Phillips teaches a 5-day ROI methodology course. He's taught it to hundreds, probably thousands of people now. It's relevant. That course is relevant to incentive program designers, just as it might be to someone who's trying to understand the ROI of learning or something else. So there's those things. I think Todd has done some of that as well. There's a master measurement model and papers like that. Bruce, I think you were involved in the original development of that work that still is on the IRF site. And there are a number of papers that we've developed over the years that are pretty explicit, step by step, in the things that designers need to take into consideration when you know, designing a program so that it can be effectively measured when it's time. So yeah, I think there's stuff out there, may not be as formal as we'd like.
Right, and if I could jump in on that, Bruce, if you don't mind, yeah. No, I think so. I think you know, when we talk about ROI and program design, you know, there is definitely something that's going to be showing up on a spreadsheet, measuring, you know, KPIs, activities, and forecasting, and having some kind of you know, proof points that something's working for you. But I think the other piece that's a trend right now is the behavioral sciences portion of this as well, and it's kind of the emotional sides that also need to be considered when you start to design and measure a program, and really understanding the psychological elements of you know, a program, and how to engage your target audiences and have them become have an affinity to your brand or your organization and or your culture. So I guess I just wanted to kind of highlight that there are kind of two components there. There is kind of a business results measurement, and then there is this emotional behavioral science element that needs to be considered. And I think there's, again, more and more information and reports that are kind of going on out in the marketplace. But again, I think that you need to, you know, really kind of think about either training yourself or working with a professional to help design them.
Well, Lincoln, I think you're all making a great point. All of the information is out there. There's incredible information on ROI design. Jack and Patty Phillips, as I believe Allan referenced, and Todd, I believe, has received their certification. Master measurement model, one of the greatest statistical process controls ever come up with in our industry, rarely used. So the tools are out there, and yes, companies, if they want to have ROI, there's no excuse anymore not to. So let's get to the brass tacks of it. Todd, if you wanted to give some good advice, okay, what are the most common, let's start with the negatives. What are the most common flaws that you see in program design? And then we're going to get to the positives. And everyone's going to get really hungry right now around lunchtime with Kevin setting up there. Go ahead, Todd.
So, wow, that's, I'm trying to make sure I can give you a concise answer, because I'm sure I could probably talk for 10 minutes on this. Really simple. So there are financial measures which ROI, typically that's what it means is, when we're talking to an executive level team, right? They're going ROI, return on investment, show me the money. And there's the other part that was mentioned here, and that is just the qualitative measures. So in program design, here's the interesting thing. If you link program design with desired outcomes, which you can measure, right? Now we have really a smartly designed program, and if you cover all the bases, then you have a great program design. And we could get really granular at that, but at 30,000 feet, it really goes to this ROI methodology model. And the first level is reaction and satisfaction. How do people think and feel? It's the heads and hearts, right? A critical component. Now, to a CFO, it's like, oh, that's all qualitative. Well, let me tell you, I've seen a lot of programs designed where they missed capturing heads and hearts of people, and they never drove the results, period, end of story. Level 2 is learning and understanding. I've been on incentive travel programs, connecting with other winners. So, hey, how was your year? How did you get here? Honest to goodness, answers of, I don't know. All of a sudden, I was told I was a winner. Oh my gosh, learning and understanding, business axiom, tell them 7 times. Application implementation, what's the behavior in the marketplace? Okay, now we're starting to get in the zone where most people are trying to measure that, through CRM or other systems. Next is business impact, right? Are we moving the needle with business? Whatever measures those are. Some of those you can monetize, great. Others you can't monetize, but they still could be very important. Client retention, satisfaction, quality, whatever. And then, last is ROI, and that is total return, net return by total program costs. So program design, if you touch all those areas, it's going to actually force you to ask all the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
Allan, what are the types of common flaws that you might see before we talk about some good tips to build into effective design?
Well, a couple, I guess, that might even, go into the latter category. I think one of the things that sales has changed. Everybody knows that, there's the perception we have of the lone hunter out there, independent, hotel room, bringing back the making the rate is kind of false now. It's a teams thing, and yet I don't know if the design of incentive programs for sales has really caught up with that, so that the people who are all the people responsible for the sale, the support people, and so on, are included in the incentive program. It may still be too much individual instead of team in that sense. The other thing I'd say in terms of good design is, and it kind of touches on both what Lincoln and Todd were referring to, is, especially now when organizations are facing a real need to respond and recover from COVID, respond to and recover. There's probably nothing more powerful in the quiver of a leader today than rewards and recognition, because they signal exactly what the organization finds to be important. They can change people's behavior that way. And more than ever, I think people's behavior needs to change to recover from COVID. So in coming up with how do you measure the success of a program, you have to look at how it is engaging employees. Not just the qualitativeness, the quantitativeness necessarily, but also as Todd said, the qualitative. How is it changing behavior? How is it making people more collaborative if that's what you want, more innovative, more engaged and that sort of thing. So I think design is really complicated. It may even be more complicated now post-COVID. I know we're going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
Your view, Lincoln.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's also an interesting concept that hopefully the listeners can maybe pull on a little bit too, is that, team awards, designed can really make a big impact. So, a lot of times it's been very much individually assigned goals and objectives, and it was kind of a one-to-one communication. So I do feel that, that bringing in other team members to have collaboration and to work for a common interest or goal, and bringing in maybe even some other support individuals that really contribute to the accomplishment is a good thing. So I just wanted to point out that I think that's a good takeaway for listeners to think about, how they can be more inclusive, and finding other influencers that can really help drive that behavior is something that we're seeing a lot of a trend on.
Well, that's terrific. And that actually kind of leads to
add,
go ahead.
Back on that for just a second. I think that's especially relevant today in a pandemic world where isolation is a reality for so many people. That creates these emotional issues, and also Allan referenced collaboration, right? So when you're in an isolated environment, it's so much easier to not be effective in collaborating. So when you create these team dynamics, we're starting to address emotional needs as well as business needs as it relates to the synergy that's created when you get that collaboration, whether it's idea generation or you got teams that are working together on driving sales objectives.
So, Allan, one of the common flaws that I think, and this will kind of lead to our last big question of how to do things, and you guys have given actually great tips, right, that we'll summarize in a few seconds, but the middle 60%, and I think, Lincoln, you were alluding to that in what you were talking about, being more inclusive in our audience. Allan, it seems to me that a lot of programs, the fundamental flaw is to focus on the people that would win anyway, rather than focusing on the middle, also focusing on the middle 60% who can improve. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you're going to have the biggest gain. So even if you had a small improvement among 60%, is probably going to net you better outcomes than a big improvement among the 20%. But the point is, I think you want to include the 20 and the 60. As many people as you possibly can. You don't want a person to look at a new incentive program and immediately write it off as something that's not meant for them, that's something they could never possibly achieve, and the same people win it every year anyway. So the middle 60% is crucial. I could go on and give you lots of examples, but I think, enough said. It's you want to design programs to bring in as many people as you can to have the biggest gains.
So to conclude, before we get to the fun part of our show that's going to make everybody hungry, Lincoln, you're sitting next to a CEO, and I'm going to address the same question to all three of you. Sitting next to a CEO back in when we start flying again, right? And you're lucky, and she turns to you and she says, "Okay, Lincoln, what are the three things I need to know about running an effective incentive program? I've been doing this for years. What's your three best pieces of advice?"
Yeah, that's good. I don't know if I can limit it to three, but I'll try to. But with that being said, just to kind of pull on the other conversation, I would probably say number one is to take a look and segment your audience. And it's really important to understand, regardless if you're doing a sales incentive program, employee engagement, and or a customer channel loyalty program. Data segmentation is really one of the key elements. And making sure that you can have, goals and objectives for each segmentation that's appropriate to keep them engaged. And so, using that, the Pareto rule as an example, you have your 80% that's driving, or I'm sorry, 20% is driving 80% of your revenue. We all understand that middle 60 audience is a great audience to go after because they have a lot of capacity to give you better performance. So I guess number one would be to segment. And, I think that you need to lock down your VIPs, which is your top 20%, and make sure that they feel appreciated, they have brand affinity, and you're giving them other reasons to be loyal and engaged with you as an organization. And then the middle 60 audience, you really need to make sure that you're offering something that's appropriate and they know that they can actually have a benefit and they feel appreciated, and there are opportunities for them to improve their overarching performance. So I think the segmentation would be one. I'm trying to be quick here, Bruce. Number two is I think that there's a lack in effective engagement tactics or communications. And you could have the best designed program, but if you haven't framed it properly, if you haven't generated a buzz or excitement around it or really clear benefits of it, then it's not going to deliver the results that you have. So I think that really sitting down and making sure that you have a clearly designed engagement and marketing communications. And then last but not least is, being able to pivot and be very flexible and be, looking at the data, the results, and then making adjustments as you go along. So don't get locked in to something at the beginning of the year and be steadfast with it. Keep analyzing and tweaking your program as you go along, because a lot of things happen and we have a lot of new insights that need to kind of be applied to the new, whatever the new recommendations might be.
That's great. Todd.
Yeah, so I guess my first thing would be blow it all up. And so what do I mean by that? It's like, get out of the box, break that stinking box, shift the paradigm, whatever you would like to refer to it as. So we're in a unique environment, and there are legacy programs that really aren't very good, and they're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Well, now is probably your unique time to blow the sucker up and do it in a smart way that'll drive the results you want. And, great, you might experience the consequence of that top 20% that has always been on your wonderful, 5-day incentive trip, regardless, but blow it up. And as it relates then to design, I would say reach out to professionals, right? Just talk to somebody that can really help guide you through the design process. I think my other thing would be spend the money, right? Spend it. I mean, unless, of course, you really just don't have it as a cash flow issue. Now is not the time to be going, well, and I think CFOs are inclined to think this way. Oh, it's we've got a pandemic. We're incurring some of these extraordinary expenses. Well, we can steal from our incentive budget, okay? I'm going like, that's not a good idea. If the business will allow you, and let's face it, the future there's certainly uncertainty. Well, incentive programs are usually designed so that, hey, there's incremental spend, right? I mean, if business, the top blows off, our sales, great, we spend a lot of money. If that's not the case, we spend less. There are a lot, meetings have a component, meetings and events have a motivational component, not necessarily an incentive component, but I'm seeing companies that are shifting to virtual and they're slashing 80% of their budget out. And the smart companies are going like, wait, we had it budgeted. And in our case, let's say the business is clicking along okay. Spend the money. Don't just force people to sit in front of a Zoom call like this without taking care, doing something special. And I think we're going to talk about like a wonderful opportunity to spend some of that money that you had already budgeted and create an experience, allow people to spend the money because your people need it and they will respond.
Allan, I'm going to give you the last word on that. The key recommendations, to a CEO.
Well, I mean, Todd and Lincoln covered communications. We've talked about measurement, of course, identifying the audience and spending the money. The only thing that we haven't talked about that I think is really important is technology. And, the organizations who had already put in place peer-to-peer recognition systems and tools that allow people to collaborate and reward each other remotely are way ahead in this. And those who didn't are scrambling for it. So I think leveraging technologies is wonderful technologies now in this field, and you can't ignore them.
Allan, that's a great way and a great segue to Kevin. So get ready, Kevin. We're going to be having you in a second. If I had to sum up everything I'm hearing here from you folks, and I'm going to start with technology. That is the biggest opportunity in business that I have seen since the 1900s in New York, when in the 1910s, when New York was wired in every which way. If you've seen those pictures, and no, of course I wasn't alive then. But there's an opportunity now to plug a pipeline into the hearts and minds of every person in your organization with a smartphone app that integrates communications, all the things these gentlemen have talked about. And gosh, we've got to get more women on these programs. Shame on us for that. But anyway, you know, the whole concept of strategic and systematic, having clear goals, knowing your audience, setting realistic goals that people can achieve, targeting that 60% with incremental programs, designing the program, as Todd said, so that it's open-ended, so that you don't pay out unless you perform, or you don't pay out as much, that you're measuring, doing what Lincoln said, all along the way, you're monitoring and being flexible. And then you've got to have that platform. You've got to have that technology platform. And by the way, only 10% of companies have a digital strategy. And then the other advice that we got, and that's going to be a great segue now to our program with Kevin. So Kevin, gear up. I'm going to share a screen for a moment here. Hopefully it will work without too much craziness here. Bear with me. I thought I had turned that off. So you should, folks, see a story here on the brand media. Does everybody see the Weber logo there?
Yes.
I hope so. Weber, this is the Brand Media Coalition. This is a free guide that tells the stories of brands. And this is unlike anything else you've seen in the industry because it's not about product features. I happen to be a big fan of Weber. What I like to say about a Weber, you never have to buy one because you can replace every part. Now, I'm not even that good with my hands. I do replace them every 5 years, but you know, but that's not what this is about. The success of Weber is its history. The success of Weber is the fact that it was actually created by a man named George Stephen, who had a bunch of kids who loved to grill, and also had this situation where he was working in a plant that made a buoy that could be converted into a kettle grill. And the rest is kind of history. And so what we've learned in all the research is that brands have a personality. We talk about personas of customers, right? Every one of you, your client, every company has a buyer persona. But companies have a brand also. And there's actually a lot of research done on this. So what we did was we created the first brand directory, free of charge to everybody, where we list the brands and we tell you their buyer persona and their demographics and their how they can be customized and personalized. But then what we want to do with these Zoom shows, and now I'm about ready to turn it over to Kevin, who I think your audio is on. We have an audio check there, Kevin?
Are we on?
Yes, we are. Great.
Okay.
So Weber has a program. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. They have a grill master, and it's his job to bring the story of Weber to life. And they also have an incredible program for companies to use where that Kevin's going to explain. We can't mention the name of the company, but they're doing this. So Kevin, I'm going to turn this over to you. Tell us the story a little bit about, first off, you love your job. You love the Weber brand. Kind of a quick little reflection on why you do, the story about Weber, and then what the Grill Master does to bring the brand to life.
Yeah, we're so fortunate. Like you said, we've been around almost 70 years now. George Stevens started the business here in Chicago, Illinois, in 1952. And so the thing that we, I think, take the most pride on is we get access to people in their backyards and some of their most intimate memories and conversations with family and friends. And we're so fortunate to create products that truly allow people to have all those beautiful memories, right? And that's one thing. I've traveled around the world into 16 different countries, and I always feel like I'm at home when I'm surrounded by Weber Grill enthusiasts and some pretty good proteins. And so we've been so fortunate, especially in this industry, to be able to not just sell products as incentives, but then also with what I do is in the team that I have is bring it to life, right? And so, yes, you can have a grill and it can do great things, but ultimately we have to teach and inspire people. And so for the last 70 years, the majority of our manufacturing is still done here in the United States in Huntley, Illinois, right down the street, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes from here. And during this time, I mean, we were either lucky, fortunate, all of the above, to still manufacture here. And so we had a big jump on a lot of our competition because we still believed in manufacturing here in the States. And so that created an influx for us, which was hard to keep up with. But fortunately enough for us, people were spending more time at home. People were investing more into their backyards and their grills. And so that created some opportunity for us. And the really cool thing is a large IT company approached us, which we've had a relationship with them for a fairly long time. And they wanted to do something different for incentivizing their employees. For the top performers, they wanted to do something unique. And so what they did, what we do as a company, along with MAS, who's been our largest mass distributor out there, who does fantastic work, customized things with tools and all these other awesome printing skills that they have, along with a plethora of different products that they sell. We build a kit. And so I'll actually host a happy hour, a grill happy hour. Usually it's on Thursdays between about 2:30, 3 o'clock to about 4:35. And we have a whole lesson on specific grill topics. And so the first one we did was burgers. We talked about the meats you put on the temperatures to cook them, the five basic tips for doing a great burger: good meat, good seasoning, shape it, put a thumbprint in it, and only flip it once. That temperature is going to be 450 degrees. And so we talked about beef, we talked about poultry, we talked about for people that love plant-based things, I do a lot with impossible meat. So we talked a lot about that. And so each one of these classes, we had about 100 to 120 employees, and the retention over that hour and a half, we usually lost about 10 to 12 people over that hour and a half. The other cool thing is you actually get a kit. And so we'll send you, for the burger class, you get a burger press, which I use on the class, and it shows you how to make the perfect size burgers. And that's important because if all the burgers are the same shape, when I go to put them on the grill, they're all going to cook at the same rate. And so everything should come out pretty good. Now, if you don't like who you're cooking for, hopefully screw those up so they don't come back, which, is a free tip I'll give out. But you get the burger press, you get burger seasoning, you get an apron, you get tools, you get a meat thermometer to tell you when the burger is done. And so we try to make these kits really specific to the classes. And yes, it's nice that, obviously I work for Weber, so I have Weber products, but this, for the people that are out there, there's no alienation because you don't have a Weber grill in your backyard. 450 degrees is 450 degrees, have it be on a Weber or something else. We want to teach and inspire and enhance our brand by allowing us to do these type of educational classes that really give the people at home an opportunity to be inspired. We did a pizza class. So we did frozen pizzas, we did fresh pizzas, pizza stone pizzas, deep dish Chicago style pizza that we did on the grill. And so we just try to inspire people. And then we also usually have a little bit of beer and wine education for folks, because I've been trained by a lot of people in Napa Valley and Sam Adams and all over the place. And so we try to hit on almost every topic that has to do with you entertaining in your backyard and having a great experience. And fortunately enough for us, I've done this for almost 16 years now for Weber. And I love bringing the experience to life. I've got to film TV shows and do commercials, and I've got to set world records and go all over the place. And next week I'm going to be cooking with one of the greatest NASCAR drivers maybe in the history of NASCAR, talking about the same thing, inspiring, educating, enhancing how he does his Thanksgiving stuff. And so that's some of the fun that I get to do for Weber, is bring it all to life. And on the incentive side, it's been fun because it created an opportunity, especially we talked about people at home, being at home more, wanting to be inspired and cooking more. And this is a perfect opportunity that not only do we get you the kit of the tools that you need to cook stuff, but then we also give you the instruction on how to do that correctly. So that way, each and every time that you cook in the backyard for your family and friends, you come out with some pretty amazing food.
About that. Kevin, you mentioned something in our prep call that I found to be really interesting. We're in such a divided time right now. There's so many, so much disagreement, but there's something about grilling that brings the world together. Have you noticed that somehow there's something about grilling that unites us as a country? Isn't that a beautiful part of your job?
That you bring up a great point. I've been fortunate to teach barbecue in 16 different countries. I've cooked almost anything under the sun. And the one thing that I love the most about Weber is how it transcends culture and it brings people together. And you can get very much wrapped into one political side, one agenda, one this. And the great thing about these grills is they listen, but they don't tell anybody your true feelings. They don't tell anybody what's going on. They get to really understand the dynamics of the backyard. And because we're able to do that for people, we take that so extremely serious. And that's what I love about the job is I can sit in the backyard and have great barbecue and have a good conversation with somebody and truly give them the opportunity to talk with where they are. Now, I might not agree with it, which is okay, because it's just like you wanting a steak that's well done and me wanting one that's medium rare. Although I know you're wrong eating it well done, I'm still going to cook it to well done because that's what you like. And that's, I think, some of the
rare, Kevin, rare.
Well, yeah, but you rare, then you get Chicago. Do you want mustard on your hot dog or your ketchup, which is a whole discussion. And so, but the great thing about it is we want to be part of those conversations and we want to bring people together. And that's what I love about this. I mean, we were fortunate, Weber was at the White House because we're a U.S. manufacturer. We also gave grills away to the CPD here in Chicago with Mayor Lightfoot, which I got to be a part of. 22 different precincts we did, and I ended up, doing. We went down for Labor Day weekend and cooked for the officers because they've been working 12-hour shifts and they haven't been off in almost the whole month. And so we did a whole barbecue spread for them. And that's part of the thing is it's not about, to me, so much the agenda is let's get somewhat past that and get back to the human side of things and bringing people together, sitting down, having good conversation, eating really good food. I mean, that's how barbecue really became in the politics way back in the early 1900s. I mean, that was part of what the political realm was, is they actually had barbecues where that's how they did their platforms of talking about what was going on in the political world and getting votes and all these other things. And so, we're fortunate. I'm fortunate. It definitely brings people together. And usually the folks that, come in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, they usually leave with less food and usually burnt food because I don't like the approach in my backyard. My backyard is for everybody. If you have an opinion, fantastic. Just be respectful, everybody. And that's
well, by the way, Kevin, many people don't know this, but in 1885, and Todd, we lost Lincoln. Lincoln, if you're still there, he had a great observation, and Kevin is doing this to torture us now, firing up the grill. But I'm going to ask Todd and Lincoln to end this and actually Allan as well. This is part of a big trend. But in 1885, speaking about bringing the country together in Chattanooga, there was an enormous reconciliation dinner. 10,000 people came from the Confederates and came from the Yankees for a dinner. And Chattanooga has always been a city that attracted a lot of people from the North and the South. And there were 10,000 tables, and this is an absolute fact. I've studied it, I know it happened. And a peace pipe was laid at every table. And there were Confederates and Yankees. And the people that were there said that there were more tears poured anywhere there than blood shed on the battlefields, because these men all got together, and guess what they had besides their peace pipes? And there were some women there, but it was mostly soldiers. It was a big barbecue, and it was one of the world's biggest barbecues of all time. Anyway, Lincoln, you were saying before the session, the whole concept of experiences, is this really what we're talking about here with Kevin and Weber, the future of our industry, really more creative experiences like this? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think from an incentive and a performance based perspective, we're huge advocates of creating experiences and opportunities to connect with people. And I think during COVID, we've been hamstrung a little bit. A lot of our traditional tools and opportunities have been taken away from us. So what Kevin just kind of outlined here, we're also big proponents of is, getting great brands in front of our key employees or our key customers. And then if we can get that brand in front of them, but actually creating an experience that we can kind of collaborate on, even better. So, we've been doing a lot of these types of initiatives or offering these for a lot of our clients, is to, again, try and have these other connection points. And, again, getting something, maybe a surprise and the delight of, offering your customer a package and the brand, and then maybe following that up with an experience on how to use that product or that brand is even a better 1-2 punch to connect with people. So anyhow, those listeners that are out there, what Kevin's talking about is a great engagement tool.
Todd, you've been in the event business for, more years than you look. It is pretty cool what they've come up with, kind of integrating the virtual approach. I haven't seen this anywhere else yet by anybody else. What's your view on this?
Yeah, it's resourcefulness in action in extraordinary circumstances, and it's just great. I work with a pharmaceutical company doing a launch. It's all virtual, and so you bring salespeople together normally, and there's a lot of things that take place outside of the didactic, training and things like that. And there's those components that are painfully obvious are absent in a virtual world. So guess what? They're spending one night, and they've sent out taco making kits, right? All the trimmings and everything else, and they're going to spend one evening, and everybody's going to make tacos in their own house, and they're using technology to create groups for them to, interact and just have fun, okay? They should have sent the Weber grill to everybody. But I'm sure you can do tacos on a Weber grill.
Anything on
Allan,
a grill.
Allan, just to wrap up, you with Ashley Whalens at Harvard have done more work than anybody. And I think you really helped more than anybody shed light through research on the importance of the experience. What is your last word on the importance of considering the reward experience itself in all of these programs?
Well, thanks for that, Bruce. But you know, in these times, I like what I saw there. You know, you can do these things in person. We're finding that you know, organizations being careful. You know, a place that you can drive to outdoors, like with Weber Experience, integrates the gift that's in the brand that's relevant to what you're doing. Good food and drink, memorable. You know, that's the bottom line. An experience, a reward that incorporates the experience, and that can be merchandise. It can certainly be travel when travel returns. It can be what we just saw in person or even virtual, but it bakes it into the person's memory, makes it something that they attach to the organization, and enhances what's called the reciprocity effect, which is their desire to give back to the organization that you know, did something good for them. So, yeah, all good stuff.
You know what? I think this is a funny lesson, and we're certainly not a religious organization of any kind, but the golden rule kind of applies here, that when people are treated well and they're respected and they're honored, they do pay it forward. They do give back. There's an ROI to being good and to caring. And it's even better, folks, and that's the final lesson of this, that if you have a strategic and systematic approach, clear goals, clear purpose, understand the people that can help you get there, understand the things that they need to do to get you there, understand the importance of having positive emotional experiences so that while they're pushing hard, they're feeling good, collaboration, having opportunity to innovate, measurement, feedback, training and support. Do it strategic, do it systematically, have an engagement platform, a technology platform, and then come up with creative, amazing ideas like having Kevin do one of these programs for you. And Kevin, we're working on a program, a Star Trek top secret program where you can actually teleport the food through the virtual meeting to the person's home. So we're
I
working
look
on
forward
it
to being in
now.
on that.
Anyway, thanks all of you. Todd Hanson, Kevin Kolman from Weber, Todd, I should say, from Catalyst, Lincoln Smith from HMI Performance and Incentives, Allan Schweyer, always the IRF and EEA, and he has also an excellent training business as well. Thanks to all of you for your time. We're going to have this recorded up on YouTube later today, and we'll be sharing it for the next year. Thanks again, all. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.